In Sikeston, Missouri, 1942, a 26-year-old black man was lynched by a white mob.
The fact remains that this African-American man was burned in front of a church, and we don't talk about it.
It was a brutal, morbid spectacle.
People are running into the church going, oh my God, they are burning a black man. They are burning a black man.
I did not hear about it from my parents or grandparents. I asked them about it one time after I'd heard about it, but it was not subject of discussion.
Almost 80 years later, another black man died.
Denzel deserved to live. He really did. He deserved to have a chance to live.
Their stories still haunt the community today.
For years, I've said, you're gonna see one of our young men get shot down for long.
From Retro Report and KFF Health News, Silence in Sikeston, a special edition of Local USA.
This is a town of roughly 17,000 people. And if I had to take a rough guess how many blacks here, 6,000 probably. It's not a whole lot, but it's enough. All towns have good stuff along with the bad stuff. And unfortunately, something terrible happened here. If you were to ask anybody in their 20s, maybe 30s, about the lynching of Cleo Wright, probably couldn't tell you. And I'm talking about people here in Sikeston, and not anywhere else, here in Sikeston. I don't know why it was a secret, but history can't be erased. Even though that was over 70 years ago, the story needs to be told.
Sikeston, they don't know how to start the healing process. For years, I've said, you're gonna see one of our young men get shot down for long. And it wasn't long after that, Denzel did get shot down. This young man's life did not have to be taken. This is the dark side of Sikeston.
I just remember hearing that this young man was lynched in Sikeston. And it was kind of hard to believe that it actually happened in this place that I grew up in. But it was never talked about in public, just maybe with your family was discussed. But other than that, you never heard the story about Cleo Wright.
I was young then. I just felt bad over it. I felt hurt. Mm-hmm.
Nobody talked about it after it happened.
That's right.
It was like it didn't even
Everybody
happen.
said they wanted to get their mind off it. They didn't want to think about nothing like that. But I think you should, let somebody know something went on here.
The railroad tracks are gone right now, but they ran right along in this area here. And this is where they came and they burned his body right in front of the church right here.
We were just kids outdoors playing and talking. Had a big police car come down the street, hollering and saying, all the better get off the street. Because he had a man's leg tied to the back of the car, dragging him. And so they had drug him from downtown across the railroad track. We were shocked. You talk about just, it was a horrible feeling.
Where were you at when it happened?
Standing on the porch. We heard all the commotion, so me and my sister got on the porch and looked out, and we saw them dragging him. They could have just taken him and put him in jail or something and not do all that to him.
So it was a message they was getting out.
That's right. They did that so the next one should know not to be trying to do the same thing, see. Mm-hmm.
Denzel died 3 months prior to his 24th birthday. He was still young, vibrant, and energetic, and had so much love for his children and his family and friends. And his smile was just amazing. Who looks like him?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Ayana?
Yep. Just like him.
Look at this picture, and then look at them. This was taken a year before his death. He was having trouble in school out here in Chicago. And after 8th grade, when he went into high school, there were a lot of shootings and a lot of gang activity. And so I was like, no, I don't feel like you're safe here in Chicago. So we both agreed that he would go to Sikeston, his dad and his stepmom. They both said, okay, well, he can stay with us out here.
Well, when he was 15, he moved in with me. I learned how to play the 2K, how to play the basketball game, just to spend time with my son. Once he hit 21, it was like back and forth. He had his own family. They were at my house all the time.
What did you tell about, brother?
We have 3 girls. We have our oldest name, her name is Dania. He named her after him, of course. And then we have our middle child, her name is Ayana. Then we have Brooklyn. I was actually 4 months pregnant with her when he passed away. Our oldest daughter, she asked me all the time, where Daddy at? She said, he's sleeping. And it broke me down. Because no mother wants to hear their child say that about their dad. It's heartbreaking.
It's time to take the prize from here.
The story of Sikeston is not unique. It's not unlike a lot of other little small towns in the Midwest or across the country. Founded in about 1860, kind of a Civil War kind of town. This is the northernmost point in the United States where cotton is grown. Does the South begin in Sikeston? You could almost make that argument. You really could. I'm a lifelong resident of Sikeston, started a newspaper here, and was a publisher until 2019 when I retired.
Living in Sikeston have been 7 generations of my family. And this woman right here is from the picture is my mother. My great-grandparents on my mother's side to my great-grandchildren, they all contributed in ways that involved the community and it made me who I am. When I was a kid, Sikeston was known as a town with more millionaires per capita than any town in the United States. We were not among them, we were on the edge of them. Most of the uptown people had a patriarchal relationship with black families. If they needed food, the family would help. If they needed medical help, the family would help. So you knew each other, you know.
One of the first things that I point out to people when they come here is the history of Sikeston, Missouri. Sign says, Sikeston, a white settlement, 1803. It means hatred, bigotry, you name it, and this should actually be removed. These tracks, it's supposed to be the dividing line between black and white. Back in the old day, when dark comes, you don't want to be caught over here after 6 o'clock. You want to be on this side of the tracks. This area is called Sunset Edition. This area is called white section of town.
Sunset started by the railroad track was.
So most of the blacks live there.
Mm-hmm.
Sunset, we had movie theater, stores.
Plenty of stores. We had taxi cabs, dry cleaners, all kinds of things.
And the whole area where you saw the Lincoln School, so kind of a self-sufficient community.
Yes. Kids on the streets playing, it was everything was just lovely as it could be for black people.
The day the lynching happened, you all must have been totally surprised.
Oh, man,
and shocked.
Yes. Cleo, he was a real handsome-looking guy. I remember him just well. He had a whole life ahead of him. Big ball player.
It's well known in the community.
He's well known in the community. Yeah, that's right. Because he was a very friendly person. Mm-hmm. We all really liked him a lot. And he had a beautiful wife. Her name is Ardella Gay. And she was pregnant then, little kid. It was so sad. Man, that was sad.
I've heard a couple of different versions of what happened, so I really don't know the truth. One version that I've heard was he broke into this white lady's house. He apparently tried to attack her. The second version was that maybe he had a relationship with the lady and she didn't want nobody to find out about it. I don't know.
The story of Cleo Wright is extremely complex. You can speak to someone else, and their version of the story can differ. And I certainly can't dispute them, and nor can they dispute me. Cleo worked at the Sikeston Cotton Oil Mill. The fastest way to get home would be to walk down the railroad track. But Cleo went 3 streets over to Kathleen and entered a home, the home of Sarge and Grace Sturgeon. At some point, there either was a confrontation or an argument. Cleo pulled a knife out, stabbed Grace in the stomach, and severely, severely injured her.
The police and the neighbors come running. They find Cleo Wright. And as they're putting him in the police car, he's fighting. He's fighting really hard.
The police officer working at the time was a gentleman named Hess Peregrine. Cleo pulled a knife and stuck it into Hess Peregrine's mouth. Hess turned around and with his .45 revolver, shot Cleo 4 times.
They take him to the whites-only hospital. Then as it's getting light, they're like, you can't be here because you're black. And he's clearly dying.
This location right here was City Hall. It was also the courthouse. It was also the jail. Police took Cleo down to a holding cell, which was right on the main level, basically by the front door.
The townsfolk are milling about because what has happened to Grace Sturgeon has riled up the white community. And they began to break down the door to the jail.
Crowds surged forward and pulled Cleo out of that cell and drug him off of the steps of the City Hall. They hooked his ankles around the bumper of a car, and they took him down to a location in Sunset, took some kerosene and poured on the body, and lit the body on fire.
As his body is on fire, church service is going on. People are running into the church going, oh my God, they are burning a black man. They are burning a black man.
The body remained out there all day on that Sunday. The procession of cars going down Malone Avenue, simply to see that, was virtually bumper to bumper. It was a brutal, morbid spectacle.
I said, Daddy, we better get out of town and set the sunset on fire. And police and things are everywhere. I just wanted to leave. And my daddy kept saying, we're not going no place, and we're going to live here. So our house that night was just full. People sitting up drinking coffee and just don't know what to do.
And they told me they picked up rocks and bricks and crowbars and just anything to protect our community.
Daddy got shotguns and everything else. It was a horrible time, and a lot of people left town, and they left their properties and everything. Had this suitcase on back of the cars. I was crying, everything else.
It's difficult to wrap your mind around how people, civilized people, could put themselves in a situation where they would do something like that. To my way of thinking, you had a black man clearly attacking a white woman. That was, in white society's mind at least, the ultimate no-no.
What you have coming out of the white community after this kind of cathartic explosion of violence is a retreat into the, where we're civilized and we're not those kind of people, but we were driven to it.
Within every individual, within every community, there is good and there is evil. And on a late January day in 1942, evil ruled the day. They may have defined Sikeston, Missouri for one day, but they don't define it for the history of this town.
Going to play some music by some of the artists that will be performing next week.
I always felt that Sikeston was a nice place to be because I like kind of the country feel. I always thought of Sikeston being a safe haven for Denzel. I've heard a lot of times mothers say, oh, why did they kill my son? I could never say someone deserved to die, but Denzel deserved to live. He really did. He deserved to have a chance to live.
I can't stop thinking what I could have done different to change the outcome of what happened that night. I had been drinking. Yeah, I'm sure I had been drinking. He came and talked to me and asked me for some advice on some personal things. And my advice was not what he wanted to hear at the time. I didn't find out until months later that he was heartbroken. He was hurt. See, if I had known that, I wouldn't have said the things I said to him to make him that angry.
When Denzel called me, and I said, it's 2 in the morning, what you need? And he was like, I need you to come get me. And in the background, I could hear his dad just full-blown just arguing.
I told him to leave my house. We got time for him to go. I'm not gonna argue with you in my house. As I was closing the door behind him, he pulled a gun out.
Yeah. Who was it? My stepson shot his daddy.
After Milton was taken away in the ambulance and the police were still out on the property, Denzel ended up back at the house. He was standing there. He wasn't doing anything. And then when they turned the body cam on.
Show me your hands now. Take your hand out of your pocket. Just kill me, bro. Now. Hands out of your pocket. Hands out of your... We got shots fired. We need EMS. We got one subject got shots fired. Stop. Hands now. Stop. Hands. Hands. Hands.
pocket. Are you serious? Stick of wood.
Denzel was not armed. He didn't pose a threat towards the police officers at all.
I couldn't believe it, because it's like, how could you do a human being like that? Especially someone that was unarmed. I'm numb, but I'm more so angry, because I'm the one that has to deal with my kids asking about their dad.
When my mother, she was pregnant with me at the time that it happened. They tell me the people were so scared. They were packing their luggage and they were getting out of there. And I don't know if we left right away or not. But I do know one thing, my mother never left her mother and dad. Everywhere Grandma and Grandpa moved, that's where Mama moved to. I was like 13, 14 before I even found out. So I really don't know a whole lot to tell. They had a old show that used to come on called Strike It Rich.
It's the original show with a heart. Strike It Rich.
Celebrities would go on and try to win money for like underprivileged people.
Thumb is a veteran. His injury makes it impossible for him to do any hard manual labor. Well, let's help him. Well, all right.
Grandpa told me, you can go on there, Nan. And I said, go on there with what? And that's when he pulled out this piece of paper. He told me that my father had been lynched, and that was my first time ever becoming aware of it. I do wish I had got a chance to get to know him, because I often wonder what type of person would I be today had he been in my life. Would I have been the same person? Would I have been a different person? And this is something I'll never know. Every now and then people still bring it up about Cleo Wright getting lynched down south. Had it been done differently, went to court, had a trial or whatever, but it didn't happen that way. You did anything that didn't go along with what they wanted you to go along with, they could lynch you. They didn't think it was wrong because they didn't get punished for it, for one thing. No, they didn't.
Before the lynching of Cleo Wright, there were 3,842 lynchings in the United States. And the Department of Justice had not fully investigated any of them.
Lynchings clearly violated state law. These were murders, the worst forms of murders.
In the park, the yelling mob of 10,000 fights toward the...
But the states weren't prosecuting. And lynching was never a federal crime.
There were movements to pass anti-lynching legislation, but it never became law. So this is the first time the Department of Justice steps in saying, we're going to prosecute you, where in the past they would just look the other way.
December 7th, 1941.
The lynching of Cleo Wright happens a month and a half after Pearl Harbor.
Freedom means the supremacy of human rights everywhere. To that high concept, there can be no end, save victory.
This war is being cast as a human rights war against tyranny, racial tyranny. Against a regime that is predicated on Aryan supremacy. But there's a problem. The problem is Jim Crow in the United States.
You have this war against a racist Nazi regime, and the United States is representing itself as a defender of democracy. And if it is a defender of democracy, how can you allow an individual who's been accused of a crime to be taken from a jail and lynched?
Japan looks up and is like, see, look at what they do to their own people. And so the violence raining down on black people in the United States becomes war propaganda for the Axis nations.
A rumor originating in a certain quarters in the United States claims President Roosevelt is some kind of a Ku Klux Klan. President Roosevelt also plays upon the loyalty of the colored people. The repeated treacheries against their faith for the past years give them very little reason to love him.
This is a crisis of democracy being challenged by a serious foreign threat. And you need to say, well, what is democracy? What's democracy for African Americans living in the South?
You also have this agitation happening in the black community of Remember Pearl Harbor and Sikeston, Missouri. You had one of the premier black newspapers in the nation launching what was called the Double V campaign. The Double V campaign was victory against fascists overseas and against fascists here in the United States. So black folks were making the connection that this war for freedom wasn't just a war for freedom over there, it was for freedom here as well.
If you people will listen to me, from my heart I played anew, for we are American. We are American. We are American. Praise the Lord. Praise His holy name.
After the Cleo Wright lynching, the political imperative to do something about this case was quite strong. So the Justice Department began to look at two statutes that had been used in the immediate wake of the Civil War to see if they could be applied to lynching situations. Both of these statutes addressed activities to deprive an individual of his or her civil rights.
When you've been accused of a crime, you have a right, a federal right, to a trial. And what the Justice Department wants to say is the members of the lynch mob have committed the crime of denying Cleo Wright his right to trial. They've determined that he is guilty and then carried out the punishment, which is death.
The federal government conducted a fairly wide-ranging investigation. And as investigators sought to find out who was in that mob, no one saw anyone. No one could remember seeing anyone else in that mob. The Justice Department took their case against the lynchers to federal court. The grand jury declined to indict. They rejected the argument that the existing federal statutes applied in a lynching case. So, not getting an indictment had a chilling effect on the federal government's initiative to use these statutes to address lynching. It's very, very unfortunate that this case failed. Had the Cleo Wright case been successful, those laws would have been muscular engines to address racial violence.
I would imagine there would have been a different outcome. If someone was out there trying to tell the cops, don't shoot him, please don't shoot him, let him get a chance to explain his side of the story. So, you know, how the law says innocent until proven guilty, who's the judge and who is the jury to make such decisions in such a quick manner?
Authorities say it could be several weeks before they can piece together exactly what happened on this street in Sikeston.
Whenever something like that happens, it's such a high profile. One of the first things that I do is contact the Missouri State Highway Patrol. They conducted the investigation.
We're going to go over the events that took place Wednesday morning.
I looked up and saw somebody that matched that description that we were given. I could tell that he was holding on to something, I just couldn't see what it was.
We all have our weapons out, assuming he's armed, and he just seemed like he was just trying to just gain the courage to pull the gun out and shoot us, you know. And in my mind, I mean, he thinks he just killed his damn dad, you know, and what's shooting a police officer at that point.
Show me your hands now. Take your hand out of your pocket. Just kill me, bro. Hands now. Hands out of your pocket. Hands out of your... Shots fired. We need EMS. We got one subject now. Shots fired.
10-4. I seen the body cam. While they were saying, put your hands up, show me your hands, they didn't give him not even a minute.
Why didn't you just take your hand out of your pocket, man?
The protocol is you shoot because you feeling in danger, but if they're not waving a weapon at you, if they're not pointing a weapon at you, there is no reason, no excuse to draw a weapon and shoot someone.
It's when you feel like that there is a threat to your life or a threat to someone else's life is when you can use deadly force. Do I think that they intentionally shot him many times just out of meanness or no, I don't believe that at all. There's got to be some accountability of not following these commands. And accountability may not be the right word, but nobody wanted this to happen.
This is Smith Chapel Methodist Church, and I came here in 1996 to be the pastor. It was a black congregation, and when I became pastor of the church, I had no idea that the guy had been dragged right by where the church was. That would have been right down Osage Street here. Cleo Wright was lynched in 1942. That was the year I turned 4. I did not hear about it from my parents or grandparents, ever. I asked him about it one time after I'd heard about it, but it was not subject of discussion.
By and large, Sikeston went on as normal. They wanted to put it out of their mind. They wanted to move on. I think that the prevailing mindset at the time was, it's over and it's done, let's move on.
After you all saw the lynching that happened, did you and your friends talk about that?
We didn't talk about it, no. My daddy told us not to have nothing to be saying about it. Say it'll go away if you not talk about it.
It's gotta kind of eat you up on the inside, witnessing something like that. You just can't pretend that it didn't happen. You can't. I can't say I can just easily get over it. No, I wasn't there when it happened, but it has an effect on my grandmother. She's a part of me. I'm a part of her.
I used to ask Mom, you know, what is this with this man that supposedly got lynched? And she told me, don't you answer no questions about Cleo Wright. She knew what it was all about, and she didn't want to take no chance on that happening to me. Young white ladies used to come out to my house and blow the horn for me. My mom would tell them, y'all going back uptown. I don't want my son to get in no trouble. See, I didn't cross the line because I knew what was waiting anytime you get caught up in something like that. I knew what time it was here in Sikeston, Missouri. It's hard to get my people to protest.
I wasn't satisfied with how we protested. The world, they have no idea who Denzel Taylor is. They had no idea he got shot 19 times by police officers, from chest on down to his legs. When we did the protest for Denzel, we wanted them to feel our pain. But the protest didn't do much.
It's a funny thing, it just washed away in the rinse. You didn't hear anything else. You know, some of our own people, they have a problem when they see you speaking out regarding an issue like that.
Police violence no more!
And when all this stuff was going on by George Floyd worldwide, Sikeston stood pat. Nothing. Sikeston, they're stuck in times. And they just afraid of things that has happened right here in this town. They don't want trouble to arrive. I tell them, hey, you can speak out and support whatever we're trying to do, but it doesn't hardly reach first base. They say right now that we've come a long ways, but we haven't really came a long ways because they are still shooting us down every day. So it gets next to me.
When I think about the line that goes from the way policing worked in the past to what we're seeing today, it is that you've got a system that says you're guilty before you're innocent. Lynching created a narrative that Black people were so criminal that they did not deserve to go through the justice system. They deserved whatever punishment that the community could mete out to them.
The inability to talk about these events generated enormous trauma for those who witnessed them And that trauma was carried across the generations.
I can't even imagine what my grandmother saw or what the whole Sunset community saw at that time. Nobody deserves to be lynched. I don't care what you did. If they arrested him, that was fine. But then to drag him through the streets, that was so wrong.
It's easy to sort of be outraged if somebody who was innocent of a crime gets lynched. If you want to defend the right to a trial by jury, it's got to be for everyone, not just those who you think are innocent.
The people who yanked Cleo Wright out, nothing happened to them. And we see that moving forward. The lack of accountability in policing for killing Black people. That ability to hold life and death in your hands with impunity.
Although there have been many changes in the law, what lingers in our legal system from 1942 is really our inability to control police violence against people of color.
The officers was put on leave and they returned back to work after that. They was not on leave long at all. I feel like had they tased Denzel or just did matters completely different, Denzel would have had his day in court. Denzel would have been able to tell his side of the story.
I obtained a lawyer, and I just say it's a moral standard for me to seek justice. I hope that the police officers, the chief of police, I hope they have a wake-up call. And I want them to be cognizant of what they are to do when they put on their uniforms and they get their weapons and they're out to protect people and not to kill people.
I was angry. I was very angry at Denzel. I was angry until I saw that video. When I saw that video, my anger just went away, and I began to cry. And they took away my chance to make amends with my son. They were supposed to come there and defuse the situation, and they made it worse.
Denzel needs justice. Just like any other person that has been put in Denzel's situation.
This, according to Cleo Wright's death certificate, is where he was buried. And I do wish he had some kind of acknowledgement out here. We can't help what our ancestors did in the past. We can't help that. But I would like for just one white person to acknowledge and say this happened, and for them to say they're sorry as well.
It's a major problem because they know what they have done. They don't know how to start the healing process.
I would like some magic fairy dust to heal this community. I don't know what it is, but there are always people that would say, see how bad white people were, and make that meaning are. I have no question there were some bad people involved in that lynching. But let's don't paint everybody with that brush.
I think there remains a level of communal shame, communal regret, and I can't justify it. But let's let a sleeping dog lie. I mean, come on. What is served by talking about this, okay? Will it change our community? Will it improve race relations in our community? It's legitimate to say Are you really trying to grind down to zero, or are you just picking a scab?
Hello, everybody. My name is Prashard Owens. Juneteenth is something important that we have not been taught while we were growing up. It's time for us to stop expecting other people to educate our kids on our history, and it's time for us to start stepping up and doing it on our own. There is something deeply embedded in Sikeston that needs to be uprooted, and that way we can move forward. The fact remains that this African-American man was burned in front of a church, and we don't talk about it. When I saw the video of Denzel Taylor, when that got released, that hurt me because that could have been me. That could have been my nephew. That could have been my brother. And, you know, it's just hard. I want people to understand that not all black men are a threat. I'm a person just like the next person is. And, you know, when you see stuff like that happen, it's just like, okay, what do we do to change it?
You know, the video's out on social media. I had never really considered myself to have any prejudice or bias. But when I came to Sikeston to work as a police officer, and some of my first calls in the black community were dealing with drug dealers and people in shooting cases and stuff like that, I started thinking, I don't have anything in common with these people, and just unfairly judged the whole community off those few experiences. So case by case, you know, it didn't happen overnight, but I started to learn how really I had that wrong.
Where do you preach at?
I think that our failure at times is that we don't really consider ourselves as an entire community. We got to be willing to look at and just say, how can we better this?
I came here looking for truth. I wanted to know more about the lynchings that I never was taught in school. I want to know all the history. I don't want a watered-down version of it. In the museum, one of the things that was written on the wall was slavery, it didn't end, it just progressed. Bringing more awareness to Cleo Wright is gonna upset a lot of people. In Sikeston, there's so much tradition. At some point, you just have to say, you know what? If it pisses you off, it is what it is. It's the truth, and we need to talk about it.
Honored and humbled to serve as instruments in the remembrance service for Cleo Wright.
And while we are here, gathered for such a horrible crime that was done, we have to remember that things cannot change unless it's us who do it. And the song I'm going to sing is called A Change Is Gonna Come, and that change is gonna come.
The African American community has always been silenced for fear of something possibly happening to their family or to themselves. But right now, we are giving Cleo Wright a voice. I never in a million years thought this would happen. My grandmother Mabel and my Aunt Carlene unfortunately passed away not even a year apart. And I hate that she could not have seen this. I hate that she could not have seen this happen, because she had kept that story to herself for so long. To be able to say it, to be able to tell it, this is just so amazing. So amazing. She'd be so happy.
Sikeston has some history we still have yet to work towards resolving. The lynching of Cleo Wright, it shaped the mindset of how we as citizens of Sikeston respond to one another. I was trying to pull out all the topsoil that I could so that we could have some clean fill when we get ready to put it into the jars. I think this account captured the essence of the occasion.
Once I got to Sikeston, I was welcomed with open arms because I was Cleo's great-grandson. And I didn't realize what kind of impact it had on the town until I got here. It scarred Sikeston. Even the newer generation can see that something was wrong. Something's wrong here.
How do you offer up prayer when there are so many different emotions and things that are going on? The Bible says that the Lord spoke to Cain and said, the blood of your brother is crying out from the ground unto me. And the blood is still crying out. It's been crying out, but nobody has been echoing what it's been saying until now.
It's a victory over that mental slavery. Once we were able to break the mental chains, people started voicing. They started asking questions.
Y'all keep on coming, any jar.
It's the beginning of acknowledgement, and that being quiet isn't the answer. It's still tragic, but we can actually talk about and express how we feel about it in the open. So instead of an apology, I'd rather see change. I'd rather see a more positive turn in life for the community that has such a tragic history.